Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the shop here at Markelly Farm. It's warming up enough out here that we can get out in the shop and do a little work without freezing to death. Got the wood stove going. Got a welding project we've been wanting to get done for some time. So what better time to do it? Stick around. We'll show you how. So what we're building today is a work platform to go on the front loader of our tractor. And I'll show you what that looks like before we get started. So we've got some big 3x4 angle iron. I believe it's quarter wall. So I think these two pieces will be plenty for our square that we're going to need, or rectangle that we're going to build. And then right after we moved here, we acquired these panels here on Facebook Marketplace. If you remember, we used the narrower ones for the shelving out in the greenhouse, but we had some left over. So these are going to work out perfect for our cage around the work platform. All we're going to have to do is just cut down the length just a little bit, because they're fine for me, but if Kelly was to get in the front basket, probably be a little tall for her to work over. So let's get this thing going. We need to start cutting out our angle iron, our rectangle. We need to cut out the corners to where this thing will fit together, and then we can start getting going on this thing. You might hear the tractor running outside of the shop here. That's that regeneration software that it's got on the tractor. Some of this Green New Deal nonsense, and I'm all for, keeping the environment clean and all that, but nobody really thought this regen thing through. So what this thing does, it's got a soot canister that catches any of the soot that comes out in the exhaust after the engine combusts the fuel. And it captures all that, and every now and then the tractor has to regenerate. So how that works is you have to throttle up the tractor. The computer will tell you to do it, and once you throttle it up, it won't throttle down. And it sits there and runs at a high idle for like 30 minutes, getting 0 miles to the gallon, or zero work for the gallon. And it burns all that soot out in this big smoky black cloud out the exhaust. So I don't know about you, but that sounds kind of silly. It's either going to come out while the tractor's running, or it's going to come out during the regen process. So do they really think this stuff through? So enough of my soapbox. Our wide panels are 1/4 inch under 5 feet. So we want to cut 2 of these angle irons at 1/4 inch under 5 feet. I believe it's 59 3/4. So we'll get this cut, and then we need to start making our cut so we can join these things together. Now this is the exact kind of material that's perfect for this metal bandsaw. If you were to try to cut this with a chop saw, it would take you forever, and you just create a bunch of nasty smoke in your shop. And if you remember, we bought our Harbor Freight stands to hold up either end of this. So let's make our cut. Got our long pieces cut. Now we need to cut our short pieces. Our side panels, you can see the narrower ones over there, are exactly 24 inches wide. And then we also have to allow for the 1 inch on both sides for the long panels, because the short panels are going to fit inside the long panels. So instead of cutting these at 24, we need to cut them at 26 to allow for those extra tubing. Now on the ends, if we were to run all the way out here, we'd also have to allow for this 1/4 inch on both sides and add another 1/2 inch. But we want to hold it back to the edge so we get a nice bead on the outside here This will be sitting corner to corner. We can lay a beautiful weld in there. So 26 inches it is. We've got our pieces cut, so our next order of business is to notch out the corners, all four corners of our long pieces. So what we're going to do, because we got a 3-inch web on the bottom, those are the same size, we're going to cut 3 inches out of this, a square cut. So this piece will slide right in here, and we'll be able to weld it along the inside without doing a bunch of 45 cut angles, which some people would do, but setting your saw up on a 45 and then get it back perfectly straight again is kind of a pain. And plus a cut like this will give us more welding surface, probably about 3 inches more, because we're going to weld down, across, and across. And this is what the cut looks like right here. 3 inches over. In fact, we're going 3 1/8 because we want to leave a little gap here so we got good penetration on our weld. So we're going 3 1/8 over, and then only a thickness of material here, whatever this thickness is, we want to leave that because the other piece is going to butt right up against the inside of this. So let's get all four of these corners marked and cut out, and then we can put this frame together. An easy way to mark these is we set our tri-square at 3 1/8 of an inch. So you just come over here, make a mark on the end of this, and then you can turn it up long ways and scribe a line all the way down, and then just scribe a line wherever you want your thickness of material at, just like that. Got our corners cut out, all four corners. If this doesn't come out completely flat, you want to take a grinder and grind it flat with the surface here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire wheel, we're going to clean all these pieces up before we put them together, because they're a lot easier to clean now than later. That way we can put a good coat of paint on it, and then when we're welding, the rust's not going to affect our welds. Got everything cleaned up. Using old steel is kind of a pain in the butt, but you're be way ahead by cleaning it now. But we're going to go outside and let all the dust settle in here. Wear a mask when doing this. My good buddy Doug let me go pick around at his place. He had this angle iron, he gave it to me, so that was a big cost savings. Okay, we are ready for assembly. I've clamped one of our long pieces to my work table here, which is basically just a roll around scaffolding, but worked great for a work table because it adjusts up and down and everything. So we've got it clamped, and then we took our pieces that we cut out of the corners, and I've got the flat side up, I've cleaned them up, and I've got them clamped on here to hold our side pieces flush on the bottom. So we'll put one of our side pieces over here, we'll put it on this side as well, and then once we get both pieces on, we can slide this side back and forth until we're square, and we'll run a tape measure corner to corner. And when we have the same measurement corner to corner, we're completely square. And then we'll clamp this one to the table as well. That way when we're welding, this thing can't get out of kilter. Got her all squared up. We're exactly the same corner to corner. So we're going to tack this thing and then start welding her up. All right, we got it all welded up. We flipped it over, welded the other side as well. We've got the bottom side cleaned up. While we have it flipped over, what I want to do is cut the channels that the pallet forks run into. So we need 2 more pieces of this angle iron at around 26 inches, because that's what we are wide, maybe 26 and a half, because we got to allow for the 1/4 inch on both sides. So let's get those 2 pieces cut, and then we'll get them put in place and welded on. Got our pieces cut, which also turned into cleaning those up too. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our 3 inches up and our 4 inches out. It's going to sit like this. And then our forks on our pallet forks are 36 inches outside to outside. So we're going to make this 37 inches inside to inside. And that'll give us a 1/2 inch gap on both sides. The forks will slide in real nice, but we won't have a lot of play, because you don't want a lot of play when you're up in the air like that. And then these pieces here, we're going to turn these into gussets. We'll put these here on the outside like this to gusset that. And we're going to run our gussets out here towards the outside of the frame because this is the strongest portion. If we put it in here, it's a little more chance of it bending. So we'll set it back just far enough to get a nice weld in here. And then we'll weld obviously both sides of that angle. Got our pieces on, got them all gusseted up. We 45'd the corner of our gusset here, and we've rounded the corners of our channels. So that's where the forklift's going to pick it up. We've got the bottom all cleaned up now. So I need to flip this over so I can clean up the other side, and then we can start cutting our basket railing. All right, we got everything cleaned up. We're going to start working on our panels. We've determined that we want about 3 foot 4 inches, which comes to here from that end. So we're going to cut right along this bottom bar here, so we have a good bar to weld down into the bottom. And then we'll cut our tube even with that also all the way across. We'll do both of those, and then we can start setting these in. Pups is liking it over here by the wood stove. I laid a piece of burlap down for her so concrete's not so cold. Got our panels cut. You can see we got a beautiful fit down here. It's like we knew what we were doing. Now this side over here we've cut shorter, about 20 inches. And when it gets on the ground, this will be about 24 inches high. And then we're going to put a safety chain across here because we need to step through into the basket right here. And then we'll have a safety chain. These will be plenty strong enough with it welded down here. The other side is full height, but looks really good. It's getting late in the day, so I think we're going to go in, but don't go nowhere. We're going to finish it, and it'll be on this video. But Kelly's probably on the way home now. We got to get dinner going, so. That's what she looks like. I think it's going to work really well. Got a nice fit. Super cool. We're going to come through. We'll cap anything that we need to cap. We can take this off if we want, but it's not hurting anything, I guess. Doesn't have to be super pretty. Got another one just like it over here. But the threaded thing here, so we might thread like an eye hook into there, be good. And then we'll bolt an eye hook all the way through here. And then we'll put our chain across. All right. It's been a couple days. We're back out here on our project. We've got our outer cage all welded together and welded to the bottom frame. And now we're going to work on the floor. So we picked up some expanded metal in town, as you can see right here. This is wide enough, but it wasn't long enough. So we had to pick up another small piece that they had, and I cut it in two. So with this, we'll go on either end, and then we're going to take this square tubing here. We're going to cut two pieces to go right where these seams are to connect from side to side. And then that'll give us a good welding surface for our seam where the expanded metal is going to seam right here. And we can weld it down nice and solid. And it'll also give us a really good, firm walking platform that we can walk on, and it's not going to be all spongy. So we're going to cut these two pieces out of this square tubing. And then we're going to have to notch the square tubing. We're not going to go full width because we don't want it sticking out the side. So we'll probably go an inch. We'll notch this down 1/4 inch and then across and then down 1/4 inch. So this will fit up flush where that angle iron is. So the expanded metal will be flush with this angle iron surface right here. Got our two pieces cut. We've got the ends of them notched out, as you can see, both sides. So where those are going to fit is right here. And we'll weld that in, and that'll give us a good welding surface. Got those pieces welded in, so now we can stand these pieces up, get them tacked in both sides, and then we'll cut a piece for the middle. Everything on the bottom's welded, so we can turn this thing up on the end so we can get in here and weld. Got our two side pieces welded in. You can see we have them spliced on that piece of square tubing. So we're going to cut a piece to go in here. Out of that, it's going to be going different direction, but that'll be fine. Unless that's wide enough to match. That might be wide enough to match to go the same direction, which would be cool. So if we needed a trap door for something, that would work, but we don't. So once we get that piece cut and welded in, then we'll put our chain across here, our safety chain, and then down here where the side of the forks are, we need to weld a heavier chain to connect to the forks, because the forks have weld-on hooks. I'll show you one of those. These are weld-on hooks. So our fork frame has these up on top. So we'll weld chain down here on the bottom that will loop around this and hook to where our work platform can't slide off of the hooks. So we'll get this piece cut and get it welded in, and we'll start wrapping this thing up. We've got the center piece cut out and welded in. We were kind of able to match the pattern of the diamond plate, which was good. So now that the floor is in, I'm going to work on the safety chain over here. I have these eye hooks that we're going to use. We're going to bolt them all the way through on both sides, and then we'll put the chain across. Got our safety chain attached. Got a real nice positive locking hook on it. It hooks in there real nice. We spot welded the nuts on the back side, so these eye bolts aren't going to spin out. So next thing we need to do is I need to go out into the barn and measure the loader frame to see how wide it is, so we know where to put our attachment chains on here. So these are the weld-on hooks that we were talking about here on our fork frame. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to weld the chains on the angle iron so they're on the inside of these plates, and then we'll just wrap the chain around here and hook it on both sides, which will be probably about 28 inches wide on the bottom of the angle iron on our work platform. Got our chains welded on. You can see we got 3 links welded, so it's plenty strong. We even spot welded the links together, so that should hold it. So that's all done minus the paint job, which we're gonna have to wait for warmer weather for that. So, and eventually gonna put this back in the shop. We'll cap these off right here, but we won't worry about that right now. I want to see if I can get it out this door with the hand truck so we can give it a try. All right, folks, we got it out the door. We had to bring it out the little door because these doors are frozen shut. Note to self, do not put bypass doors in a frozen environment, especially with corrugated metal. We aim to fix that soon. But you can see our work platform here fits perfectly on our pallet forks. Our chains are well engaged in our weld-on hooks, and they're not going anywhere. This thing is on there pretty good. There's only a 1/2 inch play between the forks and the fork channels. So you can see there, fits pretty good. There's no way it can come off, which is what we want if we're working up in the air. There it is up in the air. The bottom of the platform goes up about 7 feet in the air, and then I'm 6 feet, and plus my arms are length, so we can work 13, 14 feet up in the air. So that's going to be pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do later is my pallet forks, I'm going to cut back to 4 feet because these are set up for a 4-foot pallet. and I don't want them any beyond 4 feet because that's just way too much leverage out here. And we don't need to be picking up anything out that far anyway. So that's another thing that we're going to do once we can get these doors open. And let me show you the reason I'm making this. This kind of stuff right here is the main reason I'm making this work platform. Whenever I brush hog up here, my ROPS bar does not clear this brush. And most of this stuff on the bottom is just dead snags. So now we can get up underneath there. Kelly can drive the tractor, and I can cut this stuff off where I can drive through there real nice. It's going to work out great. And if we have any other elevated things I need to do, like when we go along the shop here and I start re-screwing down the edge of the roofing up there, that's going to work good for that, because Kelly can just drive right along the side of the shop there, or any other area that I need to get up into. Love it. Well, that wraps it up for now, folks. I hope you've enjoyed watching me build this project. We'll paint it at a later date. We won't bother you with that boring content. But we're really going to love having this. We're going to use it quite a bit. So till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on Markelly Farm.